Welcome back to What She Says Sports. This Shanola girl. Check it in. All right. Welcome, everybody. So I put together a good show for you so we could address some things here. Y'all know I have a series, Surviving the Browns, right? We talked about Shedeur Sanders had to survive Kevin Stefanski and the Cleveland Browns. Why I say the Cleveland Browns and just not Stefanski? Because management, the owner, they allowed it to happen. Now, what did I say about Stefanski being hired in Atlanta? Somebody gonna end up in federal prison, arrested, or federal court. Now, why is it? I don't want to address why the Falcons, the team itself, is choosing to ignore red flags. I don't believe they are ignoring anything. I think they saw what Kevin Stefanski did to Shedeur Sanders and they wanted a part of it. Why? Because they feel like they have a quarterback problem. In fact, the conversation has finally shifted towards people wondering what's going to happen with the quarterback. Michael Penix Jr. was injured with like a double ACL or ACL injury, but he's ahead of schedule for coming back, right? Something they clearly didn't expect. And Kevin Stefanski might be the fix to make sure that doesn't happen. Also, too, you have to make sure that you know the latest, what's going on with Atlanta. And I think the latest move they made basically let me know that Stefanski being hired and being told to retain Ulbrich was more about rewarding Stefanski for a job well done, suppressing Shedeur, suppressing Deshaun. The 2023 season when he won Coach of the Year, what did he do? He disrupted 1, 2, 3 black quarterbacks, including their 5th round draft pick, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, who's no longer in the league, right? So I listened to people on Atlanta media talk about how they feel. They did a live reaction show on how they feel about Stefanski being hired. And I thought I was listening to somebody in Cleveland when they were talking about Shedeur being sabotaged, meaning you see the truth. You saw for yourself. See, this is the issue. Atlanta, not Cleveland. And since the Falcons hired Bill Callahan as an offensive line coach, knowing he was just a head coach in Tennessee, where he didn't want Cam because he had a problem with Cam being a quarterback because Cam is black. Stefanski had a problem. What would he fail to do? Stefanski failed to build chemistry with the black quarterbacks. He devalued the black quarterbacks, right? Fans have told me how he did Winston, mistreated Winston, Jameis Winston. Now, understand this. You heard me say they had a 5th round pick in Dorian Thompson-Robinson, drafted in 2023. So you were supposed to be getting him ready to be QB2 behind Deshaun. And here's the thing. People want to justify saying that, well, he wasn't given a lot to work with. He had to work with what he was given. He's on the record. He didn't want Deshaun. He's also on the record abusing Shedeur. But y'all don't want to see that either, right? He was supposed to be getting Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the 5th round pick, ready to back up Deshaun. And what happens? He lets his 5th round pick play his first NFL game as a starter against 2-time MVP Lamar Jackson. What did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to happen? PJ Walker won 2 games in a row, lost 1, never let him play again. Deshaun actually got injured. They used that to bring in Go. See, they knew they didn't want Dorian Thompson-Robinson to be the guy. And they loved that 5th round pick to devalue black quarterbacks. Not a coincidence that Atlanta hired Callahan. Remember, Tennessee didn't want that pick. And remember all of the fugazi that was happening in Nashville with the news popping up. See, Callahan and Stefanski both got themselves in some legal liability with the way they were treating their black quarterbacks. Whether people want to talk about it or not, you see what's going on with your eyes. And you know the owner did not want to part ways with Kevin Stefanski. In fact, the owner told us that Stefanski, he was optimistic going to get another job as a head coach, and quickly did, because when they fired him, they already knew where he was going. They fired Stefanski the day after Raheem Morris was fired. So we get ready to listen to how people in the Atlanta space are trying the same dusty playbook from the Cleveland media to downplay what happened in Cleveland, what Stefanski did to Shedeur. We have people who are black and white trying to latch on to the two-time coach of the year. Let's talk about when Stefanski was coach of the year. He was coach of the year when Baker Mayfield was there and they went to the playoffs. And I understand he didn't even coach the playoffs because he had COVID. And Baker Mayfield wanted the hell out of there. Right? And Baker Mayfield went on to be successful. The NFL and the Browns know that if Shedeur leaves there, he can go on to be successful. That's why you never hear trade conversations from the Cleveland side. But what did I say? Shedeur might get traded and the Browns don't even know yet. I wasn't kidding when I said if Atlanta hires Stefanski, somebody gonna end up arrested, federal prison, or federal jail. And why is that? Because they chose to ignore what Stefanski did to Shedeur. That was criminal. He abused that young man. And you'll hear these people try to latch on to some of Shedeur saying, I mean, he seemed cool with Stefanski. He said Stefanski was tough, but he learned from him. See, that's why you got to be careful and say no comment or next question. See, when they were trying to force Shedeur to absolve Stefanski from sabotage, it was one so he could keep his job in Cleveland. But instead, he got rewarded by the higher-ups for abusing Shedeur. Absolutely. Because he got fired for losing games. He didn't develop the 11 quarterbacks that were there. You're going to listen to these guys talk about that and try to spin it like we watch Cleveland media try to do with Shedeur. But the problem is they not like us. See, Atlanta is not Cleveland. Atlanta is not Nashville. And it might be possible that the reason they hire a head coach as an offensive line coach is because they know Kevin Stefanski was a legal liability. And if he go down, they already got Bill Callahan to elevate or Jeff Ulbrich to elevate as a reward for his services, with his son taking Shedeur Sanders' phone number and giving it, apparently, according to them, to the Ole Miss kid that was connected to the New York Giants, supposedly the daughter of the boyfriend of the GM of the Giants. See how they all working together to suppress Shedeur Sanders, to humiliate Shedeur Sanders? Kevin Stefanski seemingly was a part of that. And he should pay for it, and he likely will. Enters Bill Callahan. The Falcons knew they had to try to win over their fan base by hiring Matty Ice and telling everybody, assuring the fans that Michael Penix Jr. will be the starter because the fans have already stood up against the Falcons on behalf of Michael Penix Jr. If you ask me, that's how he got injured. Because they have this, I'm going to show you attitude. So now Penix is healing faster than expected and can come back. Let's take a listen to how these guys are trying to grease the esophagus of their fan base to accept a coach that abused a black quarterback, failed to build chemistry with the black quarterbacks, worked to devalue his own draft picks, and brought in Dylan, who was an absolute failure and might do it again in Atlanta. They're going to make sure Dylan get rewarded for his services too. That's what his contract was for. He never stood up for Shedeur one time. Then there's Jerry Jeudy. Let's see where he lands. So let's take a listen. In no particular order. I have watched this about 3 times because I wanted to formulate my thoughts. So I want you to listen to it so you can formulate yours. And I'll hop in the comments and we'll talk about it. All right.
Whole weekend, just like they did, I put a post up, and my post was like, "Hey, man, none of the hires this offseason were going to be sexy or we're going to fit everything you wanted. Kubiak is going to be a first-time coach. Flores is going
in one of the most jacked up systems when it comes to front office personnel, draft picks, and how they handle things. So, it was one of those things where, man, he made do with what he could. So I think.
Okay, right off the rip, he made do with what he could. He had to make do with the draft picks. He drafted Stefanski, drafted Dillon. Stefanski drafted Dillon. Am I right? Stefanski drafted Dillon. And what did that turn out to be? He drafted somebody that couldn't win. See, this is what the Falcons media is choosing to ignore. You're going to see a whole lot of rigging and fixing happening. Now, if they smart, they'll let him come in and win season 1 like he did in Cleveland. And then they're going to run off somebody like they did in Cleveland. And then the franchise is going to be used to get somebody else that y'all don't want, like they did when they hired Stefanski. And he going to start rotating quarterbacks. In 2023, when Stefanski won Coach of the Year, he rotated 6 quarterbacks. Brought in Joe Flacco, knowing all along he was going to be the guy. Put him on the practice squad. Intentionally set up these black quarterbacks who amassed a winning record. And then brought in Flacco when he lost 1. Then he lost the other 3. Deshaun maybe could have won 3, but somehow he can be healthy in Tennessee, but not in the Browns organization. And Stefanski had a hand in that, allowing negligence. With Deshaun being sacked 33 times in 7 games. Of course he's injured. Of course an insurance company is paying his salary. They're talking about Kirk Cousins is going to be gone. I don't know when that's going to happen because his contract is $100 million guaranteed. That's just the guaranteed part, plus a $10 million roster bonus. So he's going to be right there next year, which is why I enter Kevin Stefanski. And it's not really about their familiarity. It's about Atlanta accomplishing what they have wanted to accomplish since they drafted Michael Penix Jr. to do the same thing they did to Shedeur Sanders. I don't give a damn if you better than Kirk Cousins. We want Kirk Cousins. We want a white quarterback. See, Atlanta is a coward. Not the city, but the team. See, they playing straight in these people's faces, and now they using these guys to say, oh, the Browns is a crappy organization. Stefanski was the reason it was crappy. Andrew Berry, the GM, put together a winning roster. The defensive coordinator, the number 2 defense with the winning roster. What did Andrew Berry bring in this year? One hell of a rookie hungry dog draft class. The dynamic duo, Shedeur and Harold Fanning Jr. It could have been Jerry Jeudy, but seemingly like the guy that people are on the hunt for in Chicago, he kept messing up his routes. Nobody has seen him. He escaped after the game. See, there seems to be a trend happening when the quarterback is back. When it's black, they get sacked excessively. And some of the wide receivers, one of the wide receivers, like Jerry Jeudy, start skipping on the routes, messing up the routes, giving up on the routes. I've watched it happen with Jameis Winston in New York this season. We already know about Shedeur and Jerry Jeudy. Now you know about Caleb Williams in a playoff elimination game. That's why he's hiding, because he's guilty. And it's amazing how they get these black guys to do this. And they get them to do it so you don't think it's what? Racism, but it's criminal. It might not appear to be racist, but that's the motivation. But even more so than racism, it's criminal. And we saw some criminal activity in Cleveland. And likely the reason Stefanski is gone. So now he want to come to not just where Deion Sanders is a legend in the city, and the city is mostly black, but the city ride with Shedeur. And they want to bring him in to say, I'm going to show y'all, meaning the fans. And these guys are part of the supporting cast for greasing up the esophagus. The same move they made when they brought in Matty Ice, or the owner said, we're committed. Michael Penix Jr. is QB1. That's a lie. Because then you turn around and hire a coach that was fired for failing. And then you hire a coach that failed to build chemistry with the black quarterbacks, that devalued only the black quarterbacks, which means that is why after Mayfield left, most of the quarterbacks were black. Sure, they brought in Flacco, but he only played a few games, and that's all he can play. And he was gone this year before anything happened, so he just sucked up the reps from Shedeur. That's what the Atlanta fans have to look forward to. Fake competitions, rigged rosters, playing the worst players so you can lose, trying to with the goal of succeeding at eliminating the black quarterback to make sure we don't win with the black quarterback. So the Falcons aren't ignoring a damn thing. They know what it is. That's what they want. One thing about black people, we know them damn tables gonna turn. And that's where federal prison, being arrested, or federal court is coming on in. So Bill Callahan just might emerge as the head coach. And I suspect that that's what they think too. Because why would you hire a head coach as an offensive line coach? Explain that. So let's get back to the esophagus greasing. And notice, they're black and they're white. So it tells you that this is their business. They have an agenda to try to get fans to come to the games. But Falcons fans said, we ain't going. And I believe them. You talking about people that deal with racism all the time and live here because the city is a great space for black people. But the Falcons said, y'all ain't running nothing. Y'all wanted Michael Penix Jr., I'm going to show you. So they're going to use his injury to slow him down. They're going to use Stefanski to slow him down and disrupt him like he did Shedeur. And he got to be out of his ever-loving mind if he come here with that. But that's why he was hired. Because he failed. And they paid him handsomely. And it shows they didn't value the GM who put together a winning roster. Just like the Browns didn't value Andrew Berry. Because they never held Kevin Stefanski accountable and was happy that he would get another job. And they fired Raheem Morris and the GM and pushed them out and paid Stefanski twice, almost 3 times as much as they paid Raheem Morris, who had a better record than Stefanski. Fired the GM, who was successful and put together the squad that was on their way to winning until the offensive coordinator, who they haven't fired, set up Michael Penix Jr. because I watched it happen. See, once you see what happened with Shedeur in Cleveland, you're now seeing it in other places. So let's keep listening to the greasing of the esophagus by the hired hands to try to convince black fans that racism is okay.
You got to look a little beyond the surface of the record with this. I mean, he's our coach now, guys. Like, at this point, we just got to see what kind of staff he puts together offensively. Obviously, it's the Falcons announced they're going to retain Jeff Olbrook, so we know see what he is thinking about our quarterback situation.
So they want to see what kind of staff he going to put together. Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel is the staff that he put together. He put an elite quarterback behind Dylan Gabriel because he preferred Dylan Gabriel. He was not making football decisions. He was actually accused of that. And that's what the Falcons want. Because the league itself clearly has some kind of agenda. 17-32. And Stefanski is the henchman. And the men you are listening to who say you got to look deeper into the situation. You can look on the surface and see the abuse. You can look deeper and see the racism. But they seem to be closing their eyes. In a city where people are predominantly black and no racism when they see it, and they refuse to support it. And this is their effort to grease this. Let's keep listening.
Oh, it looks like you don't like this. You're all fidgety over there. You don't like this, do you?
No, it's not that. I spent the whole weekend just like they did. I put a post up, and my post was like, "Hey, man, none of the hires this offseason are going to be sexy or we're going to fit everything you wanted. Kubiak is going to be a first-time coach. Flores is going to be a guy coming from a defensive background. Like Salah was going to be a.
Flores was a head coach. Flores was a successful head coach. So should we excuse him because he's uninformed? Or should we say, since you're in the sports world, you likely know about different teams, right? How do you not know that Brian Flores, who was fired, who's also black, like Raheem Morris, and was fired and had a winning record? How do you not know he was a head coach? So they're justifying not hiring Brian Flores, who's black, who was fired because he had a winning record. Because he refused to take a bribe to lose games. Did Stefanski take a bribe? Because he actually pushed the Browns out of the playoffs when Shedeur got them there. Did he take a bribe? Hugh Jackson, who was a head coach in Cleveland, who was also black, said he was bribed to lose games. Did Stefanski take the bribe? Because he damn sure got one hell of a payday for failing. Stefanski didn't get hired to coach the Falcons. Stefanski got rewarded for losing, suppressing black quarterbacks. And since the Falcons think they have a quarterback problem because they have a black quarterback they don't want, pay attention. They fired the GM, who was the GM at the time that black quarterback came in. And who did the owner hire? Kirk Cousins. Who will be on that roster next year? Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix Jr. What happened this year? Michael Penix Jr. was the starter so they could sell some tickets because the city was pissed. If you think the city was pissed about Shedeur, they 10 times pissed about Shedeur, but they was pissed about what happened year one. So they placated in year two. And they got him injured, like they got Deshaun injured. And what did Stefanski do when Deshaun was sacked 33 times under his watch in 7 games? When he got injured, he took his headset off. That's why they hired Kevin Stefanski. Because he acts more like a warden, treating the players in the locker room, dividing it, intimidating them, coercing them. Then in some respects, he acts like a henchman, a hired hand to disrupt. Like I said, somebody is going to either federal court, federal prison, will be arrested, or all three. Because crimes were committed in Cleveland. Not just against Shedeur. How did you convince Jerry Jeudy to give up on his routes like more in Chicago that gave up on his route, like the guy in New York with the Giants that gave up on his route when the quarterback is black? How did Stefanski convince 68 and 72 to allow Shedeur, one, to get sacked and try to get him injured? How did he get Blake Whiteheart to crush Shedeur's nail off his finger? How did he get Canales to let the ball slide down his body? How did he get the placeholder, number 13, when Shedeur was going toe-to-toe with Josh Allen? How on earth did he get number 13 to throw the ball to the cameraman? Because I know they didn't practice that. Everything they have done, they practice. They never practice what happens if the ball is missnapped. They practice that, and it was never throw it to the cameraman. It was never throw it to the side. It was pick it up and run with it. Because I've watched it happen before. I've studied this. So let's just keep listening to. Let me know if you think they're misinformed or if they're intentionally saying that Brian Flores is just a defensive guy and overlooking the fact that he's black, number one, and two, he was a winning head coach.
Fired head coach who was a defensive background. So you're either going to get a head guy who was straight off. Flores is going to be a guy coming from a defensive background. Like Salah was going to be a fired head coach who was a defensive background. So you're either going to get a head guy who was straight off the headset as a head coach, or you're going to do the thing that you've done the last 3 times with head coaches here, and you've gotten somebody fresh off the coordinator train. And those 3 times haven't worked. So I posted that, and the responses I got about the record, about not being able to develop a quarterback, about Shedeur, like, it was insane. Like, I get he's got 8 wins over the last 2 years. But do you know that he has more wins the time he was in Cleveland than the Falcons do at that exact same time? Do you know?
That means he saw the post that says they fired Raheem Morris. In 2 years, Raheem Morris had a better record than Stefanski in the last 2 years. He's trying to justify supporting what happened in 2020. He's trying to justify rotating 6 quarterbacks in one season. And when they got to the wild card game, what did Stefanski do? Because old man Flacco got injured. Instead of going back to P.J. Walker, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, they went to a guy that had played all season and they lost. So rather than let the black guy be the hero and come in and win and get us to the next level like Shedeur did, get us in a playoff hunt, they threw the season away. They'd rather throw the season away than win with a black quarterback. So this is what Atlanta has. Atlanta was actually doing good early on. And I saw them hunting for their own quarterback. And it wasn't enough because they couldn't bench him. So he got hit in a bad way that quarterbacks don't get hit. I wonder how they convinced whoever hit him like they were trying to hit Shedeur in the neck, in the back, where he was vulnerable. See, they want to act like this is happenstance. No, they already knew Michael Penix Jr. had an ACL, so they hit him in the ACL area. And now I think he got 2 ACL tears. So they thought he was down for the count. It was said today, he's healing faster than expected. Look at God. So now they have to figure out what to do to take his job, like they took Tyrod Taylor's job and gave it to Justin Herbert. What did they do to take Tyrod Taylor's job? A team doctor punctured him in the lung. The lung. So they took his QB1 starting job and gave it to Herbert and never gave it back to Tyrod Taylor. And Tyrod Taylor had been through Cleveland. So injury is a weapon. Excessive sacks are a weapon. Coercing or bribing your offensive lineman to dirt dive or push linemen into you so you can get hurt. How do you get 3 different wide receivers to give up on their routes? Bribery. This is criminal activity. Atlanta chose to hire someone who was already a legal liability, 1, failed, 2, exhibited racist behavior against black quarterbacks, 3, and abused Shedeur Sanders, 4, was negligent with the health and the well-being of Deshaun Watson, 5. And they know all of it and paid him $15 million as a reward. Somebody going to jail. Let's keep listening.
Know that before these last 2 seasons in Cleveland, he was 37-30 before the wheels fell off. He took a Joe Flacco.
The wheels did not fall off. What are they overlooking? What changed? They pushed out who? They pushed out Baker Mayfield so that he would want to leave. And did he get a chance to leave? Is Shedeur going to get a chance to leave like Baker? Probably not. Probably not. Not that he voluntarily can call up his agent and say, get me out of here. And it happens like for Flacco, like for Baker Mayfield. These black people sitting here are ignoring intentionally the racism against the black quarterbacks at the hands of Kevin Stefanski in Cleveland. It's right there for you. Before the wheels fell off. You mean before he put his 5th round QB in his first start against Lamar Jackson, his true 5th round QB? Do you think it's a coincidence that Shedeur Sanders had his first start against Lamar Jackson in the second half? Because they know Shedeur is good. And they know fans will be oohing and eyeing. And they knew Shedeur was going to play just like they knew when Raheem Morris was fired that Stefanski would take over and pick the GM. So he don't have an Andrew Berry in his way. This is disgusting for Black people to do. And I don't excuse the white guy either.
Led Cleveland team in a 5-game span and got into the playoffs. And Flacco looked like the most competent quarterback in the NFL at that time.
And why is that? And why is that? Because they wanted to prove. We're going to let all these Black guys play. Deshaun, get out the way. You injured. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, 5th round, hurt out of college. We supposed to develop you for 2 years. Come on here and play against Lamar, the 2-time MVP. Y'all want to be Black quarterbacks, then okay. Then you play against Lamar. What did they do with Dorian Thompson-Robinson after that? They devalued him so that when 2024 came and Deshaun was being sacked excessively, Dorian Thompson-Robinson is no longer QB2. They went and got Jameis Winston and put him in front of their draft pick that they set up against the 2-time MVP, which is what they tried to do to Shedeur. They limited him to a half, so he was not impactful. And notice how soft and easy it went on Dylan. And then notice how intense they were against Shedeur. Also go back and notice how the Browns O-line protected Dylan like Fort Knox and was scattered all over the place and didn't protect Shedeur. And that became the norm going forward. And they still tried to get Dylan back in there by saying Shedeur was injured. And they made it seem that Shedeur was not a good quarterback. So this is what the Falcons fans have to look forward to. They're going to try to prove that Michael Penix Jr. is not worthy. He's not good. We need somebody else. And free agency, we're going to get this white guy. We're going to get a white guy to come on in, and we're going to start a competition to see who should be the quarterback. Shedeur won a competition 3 times, and they still disregarded it because he's Black. Kevin Stefanski tried to prove Shedeur Sanders wasn't worthy. Somebody going to jail. It was ignorant of this hire, unless your goal was to put Kevin Stefanski on full display and have him to do the same thing again, and he take the fall. And that's why Callahan has the job. But to put Michael Penix Jr. in harm's way after Stefanski neglected the health of Deshaun Watson, but the team got a good payday because the Browns no longer had to pay Deshaun's salary. Yeah. See how injuries work? Against Black quarterbacks. Pat Mahomes, Jada Daniels, Deshaun Watson. Michael Penix Jr. You don't think they paying his salary? Of course they are. And for how long? 1 year or 2. He has a double ACL. So they thought they had him licked out the way. We gonna show you. And here he is, healing faster. And he coming back. And he ain't no pushover. And yes, he lets the Lord lead. They don't like that. Because they can't get you to take a dive. Like we saw the dirt divers in Cleveland. And those guys were never held accountable. Jerry Jeudy never held accountable. Cam Robinson, KT Levinson, never held accountable. The defense out here doing all the work. I want to see how it's going to go in Atlanta. The defense out here doing all the work and the offense selling the game. All so they can take down their own quarterback. And I told y'all, that's the craziest shit I've ever seen. You trying to turn the whole 11 people on the offense against the quarterback. And when they won't turn, Quinshon Judkins, the running back, Bijan Robinson, gets injured. The lead tight end or wide receiver, Harold Fanning Jr., gets injured and moved out the way. Quinshon moved out the way. The second string running back, Dylan Sampson, was a third string. He was so good, they moved him out the way. The locker room divided. People intimidated. You can't support Michael Penix Jr. or any other Black quarterback. Atlanta just had that problem behind the coach, and now they want to invite it in about the Black quarterback. You intentionally hired somebody who failed, it's documented, to build chemistry with multiple black quarterbacks who work to devalue black QB draft picks, free agents, walk-ons. And look at how dirty they did Huntley. Because he's black. And pitted black players against black players. Total chaos in the locker room. The defense was just sick of it. But the defensive coordinator went along with it. And y'all know the Falcons got Obridge. What did he go along with? Against Shedeur, a black quarterback. Somebody clearly, the league insider told Mel Kiper Jr., we don't want quarterbacks like Shedeur Sanders now. So what was the draft? I'm going to show you. What was Cleveland? I'm going to show you. Somebody going to jail. Crimes were committed in Berea. Bribery, corruption. It falls under racketeering. Discrimination. Did I say bribery? Coercion. Fraud. Fixing and rigging games is a federal offense. And seemingly the Falcons have hired Stefanski to run it back in the blackest city in the United States. A city that loves the father of Shedeur Sanders. The city that loved Michael Vick. A city that they were being conned into trusting the decisions of somebody they thought they could trust in Matt Ryan. And they were lied to. Michael Penix Jr. is our starter because they didn't think he was going to be back. But look at God. He's healing faster. So stay tuned. Let's keep listening as they continue to make excuses and try to grease the esophagus of the Falcons fan base and anybody else that stops by to listen. How they try to protect Kevin Stefanski. And it's 3 black men sitting here. Shame on them. And the white one too. Supporting abuse. Justifying abuse. Ignoring the abuse. Not holding the abuser accountable. Yeah, we don't like that.
So don't tell me about P.J. Walker couldn't develop him. Don't tell me he couldn't develop Case Keenan. Don't tell me he couldn't develop Jeff Driscoll. Because those guys are bums. The first year he had Baker Mayfield as a...
Was Shedeur Sanders a bum? He didn't say he couldn't develop them. He was not willing to develop them. See, this is what it means to be disingenuous. This is what it... Now y'all see how slavery got started in Africa. Now you see. You see 3 black men sitting right here trying to convince black people in Atlanta, oh, it's cool. Come on over here to the shore. Uh-huh. And who snatches them up? The white dude. You see? All to save themselves. Yeah. I heard that directly. And they doing it again in Atlanta.
Rookie,
Disgusting.
they made the playoffs. I get to the Deshaun thing happened after that. But he's on record for saying that he wanted that move vetted more.
Well, if you work for somebody and they hire somebody you don't like, you have 2 choices. To either mind your damn business and do your job or go find you another job. Stefanski had no right to neglect the health and weaponize injuries against Deshaun because he didn't want him to be there. Deshaun's still there and Stefanski's gone because he failed. And instead of 3 black men right here looking at the situation realistically, informing themselves, educating themselves where Deshaun is concerned, because maybe they thought it was okay. In what world is it okay for any quarterback to be sacked 33 times in 7 games? That's workplace negligence. Somebody going to jail. And the way they're going to get caught is because they have buffoons like these 3 right here. And the one at the top too, the white guy. Push it up Stefanski so he could do it again. Okay, because patterns don't lie. And it's ignorance because they should be standing with Shedeur. They should want to find out what happened to Deshaun. They should want to understand that being sacked 33 times ensured that an insurance company would be paying his salary, which is fraud. Did I not say racketeering? But no, they want to support Stefanski and invalidate the abuse suffered by Shedeur and the negligence by Deshaun and the discrimination against Jameis Winston, PJ Walker, and Dorian Thompson-Robinson because it benefits them. Disgusting. Just some snakes. And then trying to convince the city of Atlanta it's okay. This is not Cleveland. You ain't convincing black people who know what discrimination looks like of shit. And they know it's intentional because Coach Prime is here. All that's happening is now the Falcons are being exposed. And so other people that pulled that prank on Shedeur and said it was Atlanta and committed that robbery and said it was people from Atlanta because now people don't even believe it. Somebody going to jail.
And then his owner was full go into it, and his GM was full go into it. So at that point, as the head coach, you ain't got a choice but to get behind them.
So he's trying to say Stefanski didn't have a choice in who the quarterback was. Stefanski hired Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel was an epic failure. He was brought in to be a failure. What the Falcons media either knows or is not being honest about is one, the Falcons don't want to win with the black quarterback. The Falcons do not want to win and have tried everything to move Michael Penix Jr. out the way, like Stefanski tried everything to move Shedeur out the way. But he failed. So they moved him on to another team. Who's the next quarterback on the list? Michael Penix Jr. Then it's going to be C.J. Stroud. Because they over there trashing and crucifying C.J. Stroud for 4 turnovers, but they don't have nothing to say about Josh Allen. Racism. And these 4 are supporting racism and trying to convince people in Atlanta that racism is okay in the name of football. Y'all go to hell. As a matter of fact, I was trying to figure out what to do with my Falcons jacket. Should I barbecue it? Or should I customize it with busters on the bottom, in the front, in the back? Atlanta Falcons, busters in the front. Falcons, busters in the back, and wear it around the city. You let me know what you think, because I was just going to burn it and make a TikTok. Because they decided to perpetuate racism with the hire of Kevin Stefanski and Bill Callahan. Neither wanted black quarterbacks because neither franchise is black quarterback friendly, including the Falcons. And they did this, rushed it up on MLK weekend in the face of their predominantly black fan base. They want to act like it's a whites-only space here in Atlanta. People in Atlanta do not appreciate being told, we don't want you. We don't value you. They don't appreciate it at all. All right, so I have another clip to hear from the other two. So let's take a listen there.
One of the most jacked up systems when it comes to, you got to look a little beyond the surface of the record with this. I mean, he's our coach now, guys. Like, at this point, we just got to see what kind of staff he puts together offensively. Obviously, it's the Falcons announced they're going to retain Jeff Olbrook, so we know, see what he is thinking about our quarterback situation.
Oh, it looks like you don't like this. You're all fidgety over there. You're all...
It's like, hey, man, none of them from a defensive background. Like, the thing that you've done the last 3 times with him about not being able to... He was 37 to develop him. You ain't got a choice but to get
I wanted y'all to hear the guy at
get...
the top. Let's see if I got him.
And then it plays out this way. Mike, your initial thoughts and reaction as this came down over the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't my first choice. He was one of my choices. I know you and I talked about it. You were a little bit higher on Stefanski, and we'll find out next week with Matt Ryan. But clearly, I think they're looking for experience. They weren't going to get somebody in who had never been a head coach, never put a staff together, and all that entails. I mean,
so Brian Flores didn't have experience. Brian Flores was a successful head coach. Why did it interview Mike Tomlin? He's a successful head coach. Instead, when it comes to Mike Tomlin and no other fired coaches that are white, all we hear is something about some affair that he had on his wife of 30 years, allegedly. Let's take a minute to talk about this. Okay, we're going to get back to the bust at the top. I noticed that since the conversation about Mike Tomlin being pushed out and people making the comparisons to only black GMs and black coaches, including Raheem Morris and Mike Tomlin, were unjustly fired because the people that replaced Stefanski had a worse record or Raheem Morris had a better record. So it was starting to point to racism. So here's the two things they did where Mike Tomlin was concerned, and Raheem Morris and other black people, because they wanted to cover their tracks on the racism. I think it is so interesting how they really try to thumb up their nose at black fans and be racist, in particular against black quarterbacks, which is not new in the NFL, right? They go out their way to suppress and sabotage and devalue black quarterbacks. It's documented. It's not new, and it's documented, right? Somebody posted, it's like the 1950s again, where the NFL is concerned. Facts. Marlon Briscoe, 1968, successful black quarterback for the Broncos. But yeah, we don't want you, black guy, to be our quarterback. So Shedeur Sanders, we don't want you, black guy, to be our quarterback at the hands of Kevin Stefanski. And it was allowed to happen because the owner allowed it. Callahan tried it with Cam, but he got fired. Y'all saw what Daboll did and how he lied on Shedeur, including the whole New York Giants organization. You see Daboll is back on the hiring circuit. You see Callahan got hired right here in Atlanta. So it's like they saying to hell with y'all black people, especially in Atlanta where Coach Prime was. So they want you to think it's personal. You didn't hire Stefanski and pay him $15 million because you don't like Coach Prime. You hired Kevin Stefanski, who failed to build chemistry with black quarterbacks, multiple black quarterbacks, and the others are not related to Deion Sanders or Coach Prime. You didn't overpay him $15 million and let him try to pick the GM because you don't like Coach Prime. You did that because you don't like black people being in positions of power and leadership. And because it's becoming obvious that's what's happening, you decided to hire Eric Bieniemy, who you reduced to a running back coach, as an offensive coordinator with the Kansas City Chiefs. Before that hire, they had whittled down and eliminated all black offensive coordinators. So since they're on the hunt to reduce black quarterbacks that start QB1s or that come into this league in free agency or the draft or walk-ons, because they're only firing black GMs, because they pushed out Mike Tomlin, because they fired Raheem Morris unjustly and hired somebody that was worse than him because he's white. Oh, let me placate and posture to the fan base, just like the Cleveland Browns did with the sabotaging Shedeur, so they could protect Stefanski so he can be rewarded with a $15 million a year payday. And that's exactly what happened. Check that box off. But again, Atlanta is not Cleveland or Nashville. So you have disrespected black people everywhere by hiring and overpaying a head coach who abused multiple black quarterbacks, but for Shedeur Sanders for sure, and devaluing and drafting to destroy and sabotaging to fail so you can demote him and push him out the league is what they did. And they're not going to stop. And they somehow think it was a bright idea to come to Atlanta to do it. So when it comes to Mike Tomlin, who got pushed out and Harbaugh failed up. They both have been in the league about the same time. Mike Tomlin, 19 years, making $18 million. Stefanski failed and is making $15 million. They just handed him what Mike Tomlin earned over 18 years. And now Mike Tomlin is supposedly pushed out, but not fired because he had an affair and maybe had a baby with a white chick. Do you know how many of these coaches have affairs on their wives? That ain't got shit to do with it. That is a cover. Just like Eric Bieniemy being hired as an offensive coordinator because they firing only black GMs, because they unjustly fired Raheem Morris, because they unjustly fired the GM Fontenot, because they pushed out McDaniel, who actually had a winning record like Flores, because Flores is a part of a class action lawsuit violating the civil rights of black GMs, black head coaches, and black quarterbacks. Don't let these people grease up your esophagus and force Stefanski behind it. But much like Penix is healing faster than they imagine, look at God. We're going to see what else God do where Stefanski is concerned.
You know me, no risk it, no biscuit. Stefanski is a two-time coach of the year. We all know that. He's definitely a guy that, runs an offense that should be complementary to what we've got with the pieces here. But it's not the most compelling hire, if I'm honest,
Runs an offense that's complementary to what we have here.
Really,
they have Michael Penix Jr., who can air it out like Caleb Williams and Shedeur Sanders. That's what they have. I watched them try to turn Michael Penix Jr. into a check down king and make Bijan Robinson the go-to. Do the Falcons actually want to win? Because the Browns didn't. And what happened to Nick Chubb? What happened to Quinshon Judkins? They didn't even use him. In fact, they suppressed him because they didn't want to win. So it's Stefanski coming to only suppress a black quarterback because they think they got a black quarterback problem? Or is he coming to lose? So Tyler Shaw, their darling, like Mendoza, the check down king era has begun. So that check down king can get to the division and win it. That's my guess. See, they were enamored that Stefanski did all that he did and still achieved the goal of not winning. Still achieved the goal of dividing the locker room so nobody would support Shedeur. Did a bonus and turning Jerry Jeudy against Shedeur. Jerry Jeudy knew Shedeur before they got to Cleveland. I did a video about it. Successfully turned two black linemen, the left tackle and the right tackle, against a black quarterback. Not surprised he turned the white players. But Cleveland also had another initiative to take their mostly skilled positions and turn them white. Is that why he was hired? There's too many black people in Atlanta in the locker room. Come down here and fix our problem too. We don't want to win because the agenda is for the rise of the check. Michael Penix Jr. is not a check down king. I suspect that's why he has two torn ACLs. Shedeur Sanders is not a check down king. But the Browns drafted a check down king and somehow managed to still fail. If you watch the Natty, you saw a check down king in action. No passing touchdowns, negative rushing yards. And I also saw Miami's defense not block him before he got that one touchdown. If he didn't have that, what would they be saying? The same thing. If Shedeur played a game and only had 180 yards and 0 passing touchdowns and negative rushing yards, and managed to scramble into the end zone for 1 touchdown. Oh, but he not the running back. Oh, he didn't use his arms. He didn't do what the quarterbacks do. So as a check down king, he failed. And he did the job of the running back, which is why I told y'all, if he go to Vegas, Ashton Jeanty gonna be MVP. And since they hired Stefanski in Atlanta, Tyler Shaw gonna win the division, not Baker Mayfield. And you know, not Bryce Young. Let's see what happens. And in the meantime, let's see what God do. So let's get back to the dude at the top and let him talk. Y'all can hear this fugazi.
We'll find out next week with Matt Ryan, but clearly I think they're looking for choice. He was one of my choices. I know you and I talked about it. You were a little bit higher on Stefanski, and we'll find out next week with Matt Ryan, but clearly I think they're looking for experience. They weren't going to get somebody in here who had never been a head coach, never put a staff together, and all that entails. I mean, there's me, no risk it, no biscuit. Stefanski is a 2-time coach of the year. We all know that. He's definitely a guy that runs an offense that should be complementary to what we've got with the pieces here. But it's not the most compelling hire, if I'm honest, and I think a lot of fans are lukewarm to it. Now, I today was talking about people going back and they're kind of looking at the Shedeur Sanders thing, like somehow Stefanski, sabotaged. First of all, I don't give a crap what happens to Shedeur Sanders. He's not my quarterback. But I posted a
I don't give a crap what happens to Shedeur Sanders. Period. That's not my quarterback. What did I tell y'all they wanted to do? They greased these people's esophagus in Atlanta with Matt Ryan and lying and saying Michael Penix Jr. gonna be QB1, thinking he ain't coming back because he got 2 ACL tears or whatever. He got ACL injuries. And they already knew they were gonna put out this narrative. We don't care about what happened to Shedeur. He's not my quarterback. Whose town is this when it comes to the NFL? Deion Sanders. You see how they disrespected Coach Prime's legacy? See how they want to disassociate the racism, the abuse, the sabotage of not just Shedeur Sanders, but of black quarterbacks, how they want to downplay the agenda to replace Michael Penix Jr. by any means necessary, like they try to do Shedeur. Not one of them mentioned I could see fans being upset because Coach Prime's legacy was cemented here. Just like Emory Hunt did not mention the sabotage. It's intentional. This is the disgusting part. And I don't know what fans could possibly fall from this. I think the only people that's willing to support this Stefanski hire are making money off of their content. Or in some way, because all they talk about is the Falcons.
Piece of video where Shedeur said he was hard, tough, but he learned from him. So I hope that doesn't become a to Shedeur Sanders. He's not my quarterback. But I posted a piece of video where Shedeur said he was hard, tough, but he learned from him. So I hope that doesn't become a thing.
Now, I hope that doesn't become a thing. See that? His little statement right there. That whole, I heard about the thing with Stefanski and the sabotage, or Shedeur and the sabotage. I don't give a about Shedeur because that's not my quarterback. So I'm justifying, I'm ignoring what happened to this human being here because he's not my quarterback. Notice they let the white guy say it. Okay. All right. And that ain't a good look for him. And then he talks about, I listened to what Shedeur said. He was tough. He learned from him. But I hope that doesn't be a thing. So he knows Shedeur was abused. He knows Shedeur was sabotaged. He hoped it doesn't become a thing. Well, hope springs eternal. Because that's why he was hired. You think it's a coincidence that your quarterback is black and they already committed to him, and Shedeur's black and they refuse to commit to him? Because Stefanski's gone. So they got to get their 2.0 and get inside his head and bribe him and coerce him to divide the locker room, to run a fake competition. And as they become more and more black starting quarterbacks, everybody going to have a competition. And they're going to keep seeking out the Mendozas who can't score with their arm because they just a check down king. And then the running back's going to get suppressed because the check down king is the agenda. Then you're going to see more rigged and fixed games. I heard a lot of the rigged and fixed narratives after the Chicago game, which is why the wide receiver is missing. You got to be a special kind of fool to sell out your own team, number one. And you have to be an idiot to sell out your own black quarterback when there is an agenda against black quarterbacks to reduce their numbers, suppress them, and reduce and eliminate their impact. That's why he's missing. You need a certain kind of thug to do something like that. And let's see if he get rewarded. Because I still don't understand how Jerry Jeudy got a contract after he fell from Denver with a $28 million guarantee. And within a year, got $51 million guaranteed. It's even bribery. You're going to get something. Look at Mark Andrews. Look at Kevin Stefanski. Let's see who stays in Cleveland. And let's see who leaves in Atlanta. Because if fans feel the way they do in Atlanta, we out. You think the players want to play for Stefanski? No, they're going to be forced into it. And let's see how that works out.
But it's not my number one choice, Carl. We'll see where this goes. Now, we've had retreads or guys get a second opportunity and have great success in this league, you know, from Bill Belichick to Andy Reid. But Stefanski is going to be a hard sell to some of the fan base.
Yeah, Dede, where you at on this, man?
So they were just going to the one at the bottom. All right. And we already heard what he had to say. He calling the quarterbacks in Cleveland bums. So you see how they tried to justify it. So that's what I wanted to bring you today. So we can talk about this. And it's disgusting. Again, Atlanta is not Cleveland, and it's not some of the fan base. The majority of the fan base is not with this. And the people that are make a living from this, or they like racism, or they like seeing black quarterbacks be abused, or they like the idea of making it difficult for a black quarterback to succeed, or they like black quarterbacks being pushed out. Anybody that likes abuse should be investigated to see who they've been abusing. I'm going to just leave that right there. All right, so let's see what's going on. All right, let me see what y'all saying. So I just wanted y'all to see what it's looking like from the media side. Then we're going to eventually talk about what it's looking like from the fan side. I already shared some of their comments. I'm going to get myself out in this city, and I'm going to start talking to people. You know what I think I'm going to do? I think I'm going to keep my jacket, and I'm going to put Buster. Atlanta Falcons Busters on the front and add Buster to the back on the Falcons. And I'm going to go out and I'm going to interview people. I want to see what they say. Tell me what y'all think about that idea. I like it. You have to hold these people accountable. Hey, Sharon, how you doing? How you doing? Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back. Good evening. I pray that your day went well. Yes, it did. Thank you so much. Thank you, Gregory. I appreciate you. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Salute, salute, salute. It said Reese and the Jags, and Dylan headed that way. Tommy Reese went to the Jags because I heard he was coming to Atlanta. It said Kevin Stefanski is known as the quarterback slayer. Uh-oh. Slayer as in slay get it right, or slayer as in destruction. Let me know. 11 or 12 quarterbacks of various racial makeups and fumbled them all. It said the Atlanta Falcons need to boycott the franchise. I believe they are, and don't go to the games and support the Falcons. From what I can see, they not going. It said these black quarterbacks need to start their class action lawsuit against the NFL, like former head coach Brian Flores. I totally agree. Thankfully, he mentioned black quarterbacks in his lawsuit. It said he most definitely got rewarded. Absolutely, he got rewarded. Hey, Big Snacks, welcome. It says, it would be nice if we could start our own league. Integration, block that mindset. Yep. And people were talking about it because it was MLK Day. And I thought it was interesting. They had a post where MLK was talking, Dr. Martin Luther King was talking about how in Selma and Birmingham, the people that marched with him at the lunch counters and stuff didn't march with him when they were talking about overall equality in terms of integration. And I said one of the reasons for that is because Black people wanted equality, right? They wanted to be treated like humans. They wanted to be treated fairly because Jim Crow was a fallout from slavery, where they felt like Black people were 3/5 of human beings, and they still tried to treat them as they're less than, and they still are in 2026, including Shedeur Sanders, including what I've already seen for Michael Penix Jr. and every other Black quarterback. You're not worthy. And you got these 3 Black guys sitting up here supporting Jim Crowisms, supporting racism, going all the way back from slavery, including their race norming that the NFL settled $1 billion lawsuit for. Is documented. The NFL knows what it is. And this time, this year, with the hiring of Stefanski in Atlanta, they decide to show you they know, and they don't give a damn what you think. And this is where you up the ante and you take your ball and go home. And if they want to move to a white part of town, like the Browns are doing, because I think that's what they want to do, to hell with them. Let them, because we're not supporting racism. We're not supporting the abuse of any Black quarterback. And we're not turning our back on Michael Penix Jr. because Shedeur is quarterback in Cleveland. That is ignorance. That's how they separate Black people. And notice they had the white guy to say that. Black people don't worry about, don't give a damn about Shedeur. Black people don't care about Black people. Isn't that why Colin Kaepernick was blackballed from the NFL? Because he gave a damn about Black people. And in the 2020, the NFL apologized for not listening to players and Colin Kaepernick. And then Stefanski was hired and nobody else wanted him. And then he goes on a reign of terror against Black quarterbacks. And the moment the pendulum swing to the right, they took in racism out the end zone. And they've been flying their racist flag in your face ever since. And they just upped the ante. I don't give a damn if they move. The beauty of the city of Atlanta is the Falcons are not the only thing happening. I was proud of DC Young Fly and other people that came behind him and said, hell no, we don't want this. This is why we gravitate toward the Hawks and every goddamn thing else around here. I'm boycotting the Super Bowl. I'm boycotting whatever games are left because they cheated Caleb Williams. That's why he can't find his wide receiver. Just like Jerry Jeudy cheated Shedeur. And they cheated CJ Stroud. I watched him do it the game before this one. That's why I wasn't watching it. And they just want to move him out. That's why he's being crucified and persecuted. While Josh Allen, their golden boy, like Mendoza and Tyler Shaw and Jackson Dart, get a pass. They just want Tyler Shaw or Jackson Dart to be rookie of the year, and they're willing to steal it from McMillan or Ashton Jeanty. So if Ashton Jeanty up for it this year, he should definitely win it next year. But stay tuned. It's like they want to promote that this is a whites-only space. But then, everybody noticing that we only firing Black GMs and we doing Black coaches dirty. Go hire Bieniemy as an offensive coordinator because they are not. Until they did that. So shout out to Eric Bieniemy for being the beneficiary of racism. Hope it worked for him. It said, that's why I was pissed when Shedeur said Kevin was tough. It said, like, I get you want to say the right things, but at some point you have to fight back. I agree. It said, because they are going to treat you no matter what. And, you know, that's a very interesting comment because I remember people saying they felt like he was taken up for Stefanski. Now, y'all know Shedeur gets guidance, right? And y'all heard Coach Prime say he got a lot of phone calls. And a lot of people said in the draft they felt like Shedeur was misguided. Now, I'm not going to say he was misguided, but I'm going to say this. I said it yesterday. You cannot allow bullies to attack you over and over and over because they will not stop. Kevin Stefanski never stopped. By the grace of God, he was fired. But they moving it on to Michael Penix Jr. and they wrong as hell if they don't think we care about Black people. who are quarterbacks in other cities. They might not give a damn for obvious reasons, but we do. And you're not going to convince us otherwise to not give a damn about Michael Penix Jr. In fact, that's why people don't want him here. So this ain't going to go the way they thought. It ain't enough grease in the world to make black people turn against Michael Penix Jr. in Atlanta. After Shedeur was abused and you brought the abuser here. It's blatant racism. So like everybody is saying, don't buy no tickets, don't go to no games. Customize your merch to reflect the fact that they're busters and let them know. So I feel like Shedeur is following what he's taught. And I don't hold that against him. And I'm going to just say this. If you think any amount of showing them that you support them is going to benefit you, then you ain't learned. And I'm going to leave it at that. And Shedeur, if he going to be in this league, he going to have to understand that what he says will be used against him to benefit them, including Stefanski, and it has already started. He can't be like the media, like Emory Hunt, and lean on everything but not talk about the sabotage. While it is true that Shedeur was walking a tightrope of holding Stefanski accountable, but in keeping his job, you see what's being used against you. And I know he didn't intend for that to happen, and he probably never even conceived that Stefanski would end up in his father's house in Atlanta, and they would use what people are taking as absolution for the abuse by Stefanski. No, he didn't abuse me. And they're going to keep doing that. And if it ever go to court, they're going to use that. So whatever he got, he better preserve. And he better make sure people understand. Next comment. And keep it pushing. I don't blame Shedeur. I know Shedeur's being guided. And we all do. You cannot be positive all the time. But you do have to be truthful all the time. It said these Falcon channels are the sold out ones. I found some smaller channels and they aren't about that Kevin BS. Yep. It said you can just look at these dudes and see why they sell outs. Yep. I totally agree. I totally agree. It says Judy is 68 and awful offensive line going to get that karma. It said they send the awful coaches to the best black players to get them injured. Right. And I heard that Mike Tomlin, when he was a head coach, they sent him the troublesome black players so his team could never get it together. And he still had 19 winning seasons and they still fired him. And I don't even know if he got any of those coaches of the year awards. And look at how many times they kept leaning on these coach of the year awards. They didn't even look at the season and what happened to the black quarterbacks, especially the 5th round pick. How they forced him to play against Lamar knowing he would lose and tried to use it to devalue him. What happened after the Ravens lost that game? The Browns lost that game to the Ravens. Stefanski thought he was going to get Dillon back. And then when Shedeur won, who came out and said, I told you so. And Shedeur became the name starter for the rest of the season. And how did they try to get Dillon back? By hurting Shedeur's throwing hand. And what else did they do? Wristband gate. So all types of acts to fix, rig, derail, sabotage Shedeur. Did Shedeur ever have to come out and say, yeah, he sabotaged me? No, we saw it. Do I think he should have said he was tough? It was the way he said it. The way this guy said it, he should have played the clip. I said it. He's saying what he can say. He was tough in the way he said it. See, the context of that statement matters. I said in the comments, he's saying tough the way he's saying it he was being abused. And he can't say he was being abused. In fact, they dare him to say he was abused. Because they weren't going to do shit about it anyway. Right? He failed all the way up and got rewarded. And that's the pattern you're seeing. Mark Andrews got rewarded. Matt LaFleur got rewarded. Ben Johnson probably going to get rewarded. But Caleb got robbed. Harbaugh, rewarded. Lamar, robbed. Stefanski, rewarded. Shedeur, robbed. Shedeur got robbed of money and fair play. And the robbing of the money started with people above Stefanski's pay grade, which is why Stefanski got handsomely rewarded. And that's a slap in the face to Mike Tomlin, who they pushed out. Because he had to work for 19 years to get $18 million. And here's Stefanski failing and getting 15. So they're not just using these teams as a wealth transfer system. They're using it like loyalty points and rewards that you get at Kroger to reward the destruction of Black quarterbacks, including racism. Same thing for head coaches, offensive coordinators, and GMs. Because Stefanski undermined the hell out of Andrew Berry, which is why the GM in Atlanta got fired before he got there. All the plan. And it's all built, the foundation is racism. They're not even trying to win games. They spending more time and energy into failing Black quarterbacks than they are winning games. In fact, they are losing games because they don't want to win with the Lamars, the Shedeurs, the Calebs, the CJs, the Bryces. They don't want to win with the athleticism. We want to shun the athleticism, which is why you're going to hear about Mendoza till you get tired of hearing it. But fans have caught on. Somebody said he's a check down artist. I say he a check down kid because that's his specialty. He couldn't score with his arm because he ain't like that. But since they want him to be first overall in $50 million and take a Black quarterback place like Geno Smith, who they owe $66 million to guaranteed, they don't give a damn. I'm going to show you. It says Stefanski about to get his karma in ATL. I totally agree. Somebody going to jail. Somebody getting arrested. I'm going to just tell you something like that. I'm just going to tell you. I can't tell you when, but I'm going to tell you because people are now like, okay, so the robbery was not an accident, just like the prank. See how they try to tell on themselves? Like, who going to check us, boo? God. Wait for it. Somebody getting arrested. It said, and I mean, let me be very clear. Somebody that was recently hired for the Atlanta Falcons on the coaching staff is getting arrested. Let's see who it is. Let's just see who it is. Because crimes have been committed. It said they get Black guys to sabotage their teammates because they know they are desperate, selfish, greedy, and weak. I mean, I totally agree. You weak-minded. You weak-minded as hell. That's why they can't find dude. When I saw that story, I say, oh, another one. Let's see if anybody in the media talks about it because I'm looking into it. I want to see what other wide receivers gave up on their routes, and I bet they all had Black quarterbacks or a team that had a Black coach maybe. And who the hell is that? Pittsburgh. But you could just look at Aaron Rodgers for that. That's why he was hired. See, this is not new. Hiring people to suppress Black coaches, Black offensive coordinators, Black GMs, Black quarterbacks. This is discrimination out in the open. So whoever that is they looking for in Chicago was MIA in the locker room, ain't talked to Caleb, gave up on his routes, got criticized for it like Jerry Jeudy did. And here we go. Another Black quarterback. It's either the O-line or the receiver because they need both. And they think that's they playbook. They're going to keep using it. The hiring of Stefanski was a deliberate message. Absolutely, Debo. Absolutely. CJ Stroud, little suspect. Now, CJ Stroud was set up and he know it. See, the thing I've learned about CJ, when he realized what was going on, and I want y'all to know he was sacked excessively, and everybody don't do well. I saw a video of CJ Stroud at his church. And this is why these guys move closer to God, because of what's happening to them, because you're going to need it. You won't need it, right? And he knows that. But he also knows it's intentional. You think if you thought Shedeur didn't know, Shedeur knew. Shedeur knew, CJ knew, you see Lamar knew. You see he figured it out. The question is, how long has he known? But he definitely knew after that game. And now they're talking about sending him to the Raiders. Why? Why would I send Lamar to the Raiders when you just got rid of Harbaugh? Because they don't want Lamar to be successful, so let's disrupt him. They already think they know what they're going to do with Shedeur. We're going to see. Because now we're going to see what God do. See, they done made they moves. They done made they moves. Just like Stefanski made all the moves against Shedeur, and where he at? Gone. So now he in Atlanta. And Atlanta done made they moves by disrespecting the hell out of the fan base, black people everywhere, and threatening Michael Penix Jr. Because we know what Stefanski did to Shedeur. We know he abused Shedeur. We know he dehumanized Shedeur, and they loved it. Let's see what God do now. And now we know to look for the wide receivers selling out the black quarterbacks. Yeah, that's something else to look out for. See, they tell it. And they still have that attitude of, who gonna check me, boo? But running to hire the enemy tells me that they're here. Because the voices are loud. That this is racism. And it was intentional. So let's go do something so they can say it's not. Falcons fans as a culture and people should boycott and not go to the games to offset the powers that be. The true powers in the people. Facts. I totally agree. And I say if they want to leave, let them go. Let them go. It said red hoodie sweat jacket and the crew on this Zoom. Just stupid. Yep. It said they are another Mary Kane Grossi. That's what I was thinking. I was like, wait a minute, is this the same network? But this one is called The Game. Wasn't the other one like The Fan or something like that? Or I don't know. But I totally agree. I think they all in cahoots, which is why I keep saying the silence from the Browns media. Now, how you see the justification for Stefanski by the Atlanta media, and you know it's not an accident. You know what they're trying to overcome. The silence by the Brown media on two fronts. One was when Shedeur put them in playoff contention against the Raiders. Playoff hunt. They never talked about it in the media. The second one was when Shedeur got robbed and the robbers got caught. They never talked about it. You see? They enjoying all these likes and views and clicks in Atlanta. But they also being exposed. So you have to pick your poison. Got it. Don't think it's coincidence. They never talked about Shedeur being robbed or the robbers being caught. They talk about Shedeur when he tied his goddamn shoes. Never talked about Shedeur Sanders with the win versus Vegas had us in the playoff hunt. Ooh, who we got to beat? I wonder if we can win. If we win by Tennessee, who will we play next? Nothing. Silencio. Silence. Silence. Y'all don't find that strange? You know the silence about the playoff hunt with Shedeur at the helm was intentional because they wanted to lose. And it proves that the media knew they wanted to lose all along. The media knows they want the Manning kid. Don't be surprised if you start hearing Ryan Staub's name. Tennessee. They know they want Peyton Manning to take over and push Andrew Berry out or be his boss. Tell him what to do. So they have shown you what they're capable of. So you should go back and look at the rivalry again. And look at how they were silent about the playoff hunt when Shedeur was the guy, because the goal was to lose. And we don't want to win with him. So the games were rigged. It rigged against Shedeur. And then come over here to the rivalry and look at their silence. Look at what they talk about. Look at what they're silent about. And it'll tell you what they know. They know something. Somebody getting arrested. You see? I wasn't born that night. And I wasn't born last night either. So it said Tomlin and Morris should file a class action lawsuit like Brian Flores. He should join this because he already got just join it. I totally agree. It said he really thinks Kevin Stefanski is going to do well. Oh, Uncle Ruckus. Right, Tina. Right. Totally right. Totally right. Oh, Peter put up the raccoon sign. Y'all know what time it is. It said those are the ATL podcasters that are glazing Stefanski. One of the black dudes says Stefanski has a nicely groomed beard. Oh my God. What did I tell y'all yesterday? When you heard me say a couple things. You heard me say when I stopped being a Falcons fan, I didn't like how they was treating Michael Penix Jr. And that was year 1. So I've had that jacket. You've only seen it a few times. And I also said last night, I'm not going toe to toe with these folks. Now you see why. I'm not going toe to toe with them. Because one thing about it, them tables gonna turn. That's a guarantee. And then we'll be back to see what they're saying. It said the NFL is clearly, yep, Debo. Absolutely. Stefanski is an overseer. Facts. That's how he acts. And remember what they said. The Texans owner said we can't have the inmates running the prison. Y'all think they still feel like that? Of course they do. And remember, Atlanta already had players upset that the black coach they fired, the wide receiver coach they scapegoated, was fired. They already had issues. I talked about it. And they brought this to their doorstep intentionally. So Kevin Stefanski can get the locker room under control. So they don't stand up for Michael Penix Jr. because they're going to take him down again like they did this year. I wonder if Matt Ryan knew he was a pawn. Probably. It said, man, the Packers cut Trayvon Diggs. Oh, well, I don't know what he does. So I'd have to tell us what's the problem with that, Sharon. It said, this is bigger than Cleveland, though. Yep, it is. That's facts, Chosen. It's the NFL powers. Yep, that's facts. You're totally right about that. It said, they are some raccoons. Yep, they are some raccoons. It said, it's been an attack on black QBs in the league because they wanted to be, they wanted to be a whites-only space, not just black quarterbacks, black GMs, black coaches. That's why the Minnesota Vikings told us on Tuesday they could hold a press conference on Thursday. And I said, do they want to tell us that they're holding it? Well, just tell us on Tuesday. They wanted to have special fanfare to tell us they were extending their black GM, which tells me they know that black GMs are being pushed out. You see how they tell on themselves? You didn't need a separate press conference for that. You could have put that on social media. Why did it need to be a big deal? Because they keep firing black GMs and only black GMs. Mm-hmm. And now they want to run and hire Airbnb. You see how they do? They're just some Karens starting shit and want to hide their hands and start crying when they get caught. I'm waiting on the get caught part. Right now, they're trying to hide their hands by hiring Bieniemy as an OC for Kansas City. I want to wait for the tears next. Somebody going to be in handcuffs because crimes have been committed. One thing about it, the way things are today, they may not be tomorrow, and they do not seem to prepare for beyond the next 24 hours. All right. So, yeah, I totally agree. $15 million for what? I know that's right. Kevin also gave our nephew number 12 the wrong plays to continue sabotage of our nephew. Fact. But it said God is protecting our nephew. Fact. And he didn't need to justify it. Now that I remember people saying that he didn't need to try to smooth that over for them because they kept on. What they do after that? Tore the nail off his finger. See, that's why you don't cover for bullies. They heartless. These people are heartless. They can't say you 3/5 of the human being. They can't act like this is Jim Crow, but they're treating you like it. They're telling you, we don't want black people in leadership. We don't want black quarterbacks winning. We don't want no more black quarterbacks in the Super Bowl. We don't want 3 more black people in the championships. We don't want black people to seem like they taking over. This is our space. That's how they feel about you. So do not cover for anything they did to you if you choose to stay there. Because y'all know what I'm waiting on. Somebody to choose their self. Shout out to Terrell Owens' son, I think, got picked up in Canada. So he up there with Justin Mayers and Aubrey Miller from Jackson State and Chidozie. Canada just might be on and popping this year. Imagine if they had some elite quarterbacks. They can only be, I heard, 6 Americans on certain teams or something. I got to look into that. I'm looking into that. I heard there only be 6 Americans on the team, but I don't know how true that is. I'm going to look into it because if they can do something about that, y'all know Coach Prime already got that pipeline going to Canada. It's not a coincidence. That's why, what's his name might end up there. What's his name? Caden? Yeah. Because he's delusional if he don't understand what the hell going on in the NFL. So he might end up there too. So we'll see what happens. But I noticed Coach Prime got a little pipeline going with them. Let's see what happens with the UFL too. See what happens. Who go over there? All right. So I'm going to get myself out of here. Thank you, Big Snacks. I appreciate it. I'll be back tonight, y'all, at 10:35. I wanted to get y'all to see what y'all was saying. You know, I wanted y'all to hear what they were saying and see what y'all was saying about how they greasing the throats and trying to shove toxicity and racism down it, making racism acceptable by latching on to lies. Saying they want experience, but talking about Brian Flores only being on the defensive side. So you either uninformed or you just straight up lying. Saying, oh, I don't care what happened to Shedeur. He ain't my quarterback. Don't forget they had the white guy to say that. See how calculated they are? When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And when people show you what they are capable of, don't ever turn your back on them. Never. And do not cover for them in any way. Next comment. All right. So I'll see y'all tonight at 10:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank y'all so much. I heard we got a new sub, Falcons fans forever. Yay! Okay, Falcons fans forever. It said, Penix Jr., you have a new sub. It said, I got a lot of support for Michael Penix Jr. Me too. Me too. Exactly. I'm tired of seeing other Falcons fans defend this hire too. Yeah. Don't believe these people. Don't believe these people. They know what they did was wrong. So they just trying to grease your throat every step of the way. To hell with them. Take your bow and go home. Atlanta Falcons fans, regardless of your color, if you are a decent person, if you do not like this hire, it's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. Take your ball and go home. Reallocate your money. Don't buy no tickets. Don't buy no merch. And do not watch it on TV. Watch the highlights only. Because that's what we did for Cleveland. When we was boycotting them before Shedeur played. So we giving y'all game. We know you want to see, but you don't need to watch it while it's live because you are filling up they greedy fat pockets because they get $452 million apiece, each owner. They don't give a damn if you don't come to the stand. Do not watch it live. Watch it later on the highlights. All right, I'll see y'all later, 10:35 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for watching What She Said Sports. And thanks for the new sub and the Falcons fans. I appreciate y'all. And I'm right here in the city, so you might see me out and about.